Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's
Good morning.
wonderful.
Hey, there's everybody.
It's so wonderful to have David Duchovny with us this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. We will start, as we always do, with a moment of silent meditation led by Tracy, after which Ivan will give a short introduction, and we can't wait to hear from you. Let me make sure Tracy's back in the meeting. I'm going to spotlight her. Okay, Tracy.
1, 2, 3. One, two, three.
Thank you, Tracy. First, I have to give thanks to our chairman, Dan Singer, a dear friend of mine who I've known since 9th grade, who was able to get for us today somebody I've known for just as many years as our whole school, our speaker series speaker, David Duchovny. David is an award-winning actor, a director, a musician, a New York Times best-selling author, a Phi Beta Kappa summa cum laude scholar with Princeton and Yale notches on his belt. A scholar, yes, but also he was an elegant scholar athlete, gifted with individual skill, but also a person who kept a view of the full court and his teammates. David is beautiful to witness how the game still develops in front of you as you create yourself and your relationship to the arts and your voice in this mad political season for a more just America. Plus, you got your mother to finally vote. So that is a thrill. You know, I am still, you know, I've read up on you, I've looked at videos and tried to figure out what to say. One of the things I have to say is I do not know what a schizophrenic critique of pure reason might be, and I'd be crazy to hazard a guess. I won't and I can't. But our students will be after you with hard questions, and I'll have little doubt you'll meet them with the same elegance of presence you had on the court and in the classrooms of our youth, and now on the stage and screen. And as I mentioned before, you know, to prepare for this, I've watched you in recent interviews, and these were both serious ones and also playful ones. And I was taken that by how you were really somebody who, while you make a living with speech and presence, you're also a very thoughtful listener, and one of these rare people these days who's a seeker of immediate and deeper truths. That shining quality, that person who seeks the truth and a listener, was a rarity in the halls of collegiate back then and larger society now. But it is deeply valued here on 103rd Street. And you are our deeply valued speaker, the great David Duchovny. Welcome.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. You almost brought me to tears there. But we'll talk about that another time, you and I. But I want to listen to the kids now, the young adults. I like Ivan said, I've known Ivan and Dan since I was a kid, and we grew up in New York together and went through our high school years together. So different from the way things are now, but human beings don't really change. Their nature doesn't change. So I can only hope and assume that we will get back to a place in the world away from this virus and everything where we can exercise our full human natures again. But for today, we're stuck with the Zoom, right? With the screen, and that's gonna have to do, and it will do. And I've been looking forward to visiting your school. I've been looking forward to meeting you guys for a long time, and I'm so impressed with what Ivan and Dan have been able to do, and I'm sure all your teachers who I don't know, but I'm sure they're wonderful. My mother, that Ivan referenced, who voted for the first time at the age of 90 in this last election, She was a second grade teacher at Grace Church School downtown for 25, 30, 35 years. And my sister is a teacher at St. Anne's. And I suppose I was a teacher once upon a time when I was a graduate student. So I come from a family of teachers, and I respect nothing more than that. So having said that, you guys feel free to badmouth your teachers to me here. Nobody's listening, I swear, nobody's listening. They won't hear you. See, that's the thing about Zoom. It's just not that funny, is it? But go ahead. You guys got anything for me? You want to know anything? I don't know anything.
We do have so many questions. Would you like to go straight to our questions this morning?
Well, I will say this. In terms of, when I look back at my high school years, and I've talked about this with other people that went to that high school, and maybe Ivan and Dan can even attest to this, that we went to the school called Collegiate on the Upper West Side. And what I learned there was really how to write and how to read. And I know that sounds basic, but to me, even though science and math and all that stuff that I'm terrible at is very important, it's really reading and writing that teaches you not what to think, but how to think. And I think especially writing. And I think that these days it's very hard to value reading and writing as much because we're on screens and it's harder to read and write on screens. And I think and I hope that at your school, you still value those kind of obsolete ancient forms of learning how to write, of learning how to think. I guess when I was little, I thought an education was accumulating knowledge. But now that I look back, I think education is learning how to think, not gathering facts, though that's worthwhile and we should all do that. But learning how to think for yourself. And somehow I know that whatever Ivan and Dan are into over there, that's the case. So when I became an actor, which was at the age of like 26, which I guess is kind of late to decide, what you want to do. I had gone through all these wonderful schools, and I had been in graduate school for 4 years at that point, 3-4 years, and had done all my graduate work except for my thesis. And I kind of took a hard turn away from what I was going to do with my life, and I got into acting, where none of the schooling that I'd done amounted to anything really. Nobody cared about that. So I became a beginner again at 26 or 27. And I thought that I'd thrown it all away. I thought, oh, I spent all this time doing this thing, and now I can't even use it. But that gets back to what I said earlier, which is that to be taught how to think, which is in the end what I think I was taught, is the most valuable thing. And that I didn't throw anything away, that it just became the foundation of my life, even as I was an actor. And actors supposedly don't have to think very much at all. And as I've gone on and I came back and, at the age of 50 or something, 53 or 4, I published my first novel. So I got back to what I had studied. I got back to being a reader and a writer. So I guess in a nutshell, we never know where it's all leading, but the one fundamental truth is that if you teach yourself how to think, if you allow yourself to be taught, if you gather that knowledge, it'll serve you in whatever capacity you choose. It'll serve you even in those fields that you weren't prepared for, because your mind will have been disciplined and your mind will have been filled and active. I didn't know that's what I was going to say this morning, but I believe it. And we don't necessarily have to talk about any of that. We can talk about whatever it is you guys want to talk about. But that's what I'm thinking about this morning as I'm looking at your faces.
So David, that was beautiful, and as a teacher, it sings to my heart. the eighth graders are ready to come at you with wonderful questions. Everyone's done research and they know about your biography and your accomplishments, again, across the spectrum of the arts. So, Anna, I think we're ready to put David to the test.
Wonderful. Our first question comes from Catherine, who is an eighth grader who's Zooming in from home today.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi, good morning. I would like
Morning.
to thank you for being our whole school time speaker today.
You're welcome.
And I read that you attended Princeton University and graduated with a degree in English. During your time in college, had you already determined your career path? If so, can you give some advice to those of us who are still unsure of the career paths we will take in the future?
Yes, I had no idea. Thank you for that question. No, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Ivan alluded to me being an athlete. I wanted to be a professional basketball player, but by the time I was at Princeton, that was abundantly clear that that wasn't going to happen. So I didn't know. I knew I liked to read. I knew that I liked to write. I had never acted. I never knew an actor. I never met an actor in my life. So that wasn't even on my radar at that point. I knew that my life would have something to do with writing, would have something to do with thinking, but I didn't know the job it was going to be. I didn't know if I was going to go to law school. I had no idea, and I was probably nervous about it. My son is 18, and he says he's nervous because he doesn't know what he wants to do. And, there I was at, 24, 25, 26, and I was still at graduate school heading towards becoming an academic, heading towards a PhD and then becoming a professor of English literature. But I knew that that's not really what I wanted to do, that my heart wasn't in that. So I was staying open to other stimuli, other options. And I guess when acting came along, for me, it was really the attraction to it was actually like sports. It reminded me of how good I felt when I played basketball or baseball or tennis not tennis, or team sports. It reminded me of the collaboration and the excitement of putting on a show or whatever, like putting on a game. And I think that was really why I fell in love with it at first, because I had never really thought about it at all. I mean, I thought about maybe writing plays, but I never thought about acting them. So it took a while for me to find something that I wanted to do or liked to do that I could put my heart into in that way.
Thank you so much for that. Our next question comes from Sitlali. And you may notice some of our students are Zooming in here from school, and Sitlali is one of those. And Sitlali, go ahead.
Oh, good morning. I was
Good
blown
morning.
away when I read that you are an actor, writer, producer, director, novelist, and singer-songwriter. You have been able to accomplish so much in your life, and I was wondering if you could tell us about what keeps you motivated.
That's an excellent question. Thank you. I think for me, it's always, and again, I'm going to come back to sports with this. It's always like, what's the next game? And I don't say game like it doesn't mean anything. I actually say game as one of the most important words and things that we can do. Be playful, to play as people. And I think that for me, it's always looking at some other thing that's possibly within the realm that I can do, whether it's writing or music. And it's like, what's that game about? What does it mean to really kind of dive into that and try to play that game? And it's not a game in the sense of like I'm full of it or I'm trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes. It's more like a kid's game in the best way, just playing. And I think that's what motivates me is always wanting to be in a game, always wanting to create, always wanting to do something new, always wanting to be a beginner, really, again. You know, people talk about this thing, Zen mind, beginner's mind, which is to approach everything as if it's the first time you ever did it. And what if we did that as people? What would our lives be like? How exciting would they be? How fulfilling would they be? And so I think that it's my way of kind of pursuing Zen mind, beginner's mind is, okay, here's a whole other new creative endeavor here. All of a sudden, I'm not like a guy who's got 30 years of experience. I'm a guy who's got no experience. And that's exciting and scary, which I like too, and challenging. So that, I guess that's how I keep myself involved in a way.
Thank you so much for that, David. We'll be going next to Leslie, who has a question about acting.
Okay.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
I admire actors for their ability to make a scenario seem so real. In your biography, I was amazed to see that you have been on multiple movies and shows. My question for you is, what strategies do you use when performing different characters' emotions and expressions?
Oh, that's a really good question too. You're asking me to give away the trade secrets, the secret sauce, huh? I think, you know, I mean, the way I learned and the way I learned as I did in acting, through acting, I learned very much by doing. You know, acting to me has always been to try and be as truthful as I could, obviously within a circumstance where you're faking it, where you're lying. You know, you don't believe that what is happening in this play or this movie or this television show is really happening, but you want to give the illusion of that reality for the viewer. And it was always, how can I be as truthful as I can be? And I think that was one of the things that really drew me to acting was, you know, I don't think I was the most confrontational of people. Maybe I wasn't the most truthful of people either. But in acting, I could be completely honest and truthful if I could find the appropriate way to do that within that character. And there are many ways to try to get there. And there are many ways to try and figure out what's the appropriate emotion in the scene. What is relevant from that scene to your own life, so it can spark your own kind of personal connection to the material. So there are many, many ways to go about trying to make yourself alive and unexpected within a scene, because being unexpected is the best thing that you can do as an actor, because that's what we like to see. That's what I like to see as a viewer. When I see something, when I see an actor do something out of the blue, it just feels like real life, because real life is always out of the blue. So, you know, scene by scene, role by role, you know, there are many, many questions like yours that I go through, that I interrogate the text with, or that I look at those scenes with. And we could go over those, you know, we could go over them individually sometime if we can do this again. If we want to have a talk that's really just about acting with you guys at some point, I'd love to, because I find it fascinating. But you know, it's really it's trying to. Sometimes you work from the inside out. You try and connect your own life to that character from inside. And sometimes you work from the outside in. Sometimes you decide on a certain walk or a certain way you hold your head, and that gives you a different character from yourself. So there are all sorts of tricks, all sorts of methods, all sorts of ways to try to get inside the work. And I find that very interesting. And maybe you would too, if you want to have that discussion sometime, you guys that are interested in drama. I'm not sure what kind of drama you guys do at the school, but I'd be interested to hear.
Thank you so much for that. Our next question is about your work as a musician, and it comes from Vanessa.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi. I read in your biography that you are a singer and songwriter. I have listened to your song Stranger in the Sacred Heart, and I really enjoyed it. Can you tell us a little about what this song means to you?
You guys are really good, I have to say. These are really good questions. Stranger in the Sacred Heart happens to be a song that's that was really important to me, because it's really about my father's death. And I was in Paris, which is where my father moved after he retired and lived and died. And I was in Paris actually playing music. And I went the morning of the performance to go to this church, Sacré-Cœur, the Sacred Heart. And I was told that in this church, the tradition was, and I'm not a churchgoer, I never have been. And I was told in this church that people pray for strangers, that people go in and they pray for humanity, or they pray for people they don't know. And that struck me as beautiful. And I wanted to see that. I just wanted to stand there. And it was at the top of this hill called Montmartre, my French accent, terrible, Montmartre. And so yeah, I had to walk up a real steep hill to get to the church, me and my buddy, Maddie, and got there and just kind of soaked it in. But it was this idea of being in the city where my father died.
Wow.
And then this church where people prayed for people they don't know. And it kind of just all came together for me that this was not a coincidence, that this was something I should honor by writing about in a way. And then it became that song, which starts in the city where my father died, and then it talks about that church, and then it goes to that church. And it really was about, I was trying to write about first of all, my lack of giving back, my lack of generosity, in the sense of I wasn't praying for people I didn't know. And then also connecting that to a kind of snapping myself out of some kind of sense of sadness about my dad and recommitting myself to life, I guess. I guess that's what that song's about. I'd have to really look at the lyrics right now to tell you, but it was a really important song for me to write, and I still feel like it's a song that is more about me than anything that I've ever written.
Wow. Vanessa hit it then. Wow, that was beautiful to listen to your answer, and wonderful that Vanessa could evoke that response.
Yeah, Vanessa, I want to know how you did that. I'm coming after you.
All right, our next question is from Corey, who is zooming in from home.
Hey, Corey.
Good morning. In your biography, I read that you have had the opportunity to work on the set of many television series production. What would you say was your favorite television series work experience?
I've really enjoyed them all. I would say, I really have enjoyed doing comedy, because it's fun to go to work and think you're going to try to make people laugh or entertain people, although it's way harder to do a comedy than to do drama, just because, if you don't get a laugh, it's not working. So in that sense, I've enjoyed the comedic stuff that I've done, but I think and like I said in an earlier answer, what I really do enjoy about acting is that it's a team sport. When I go to work on a TV or a movie set, there's probably there's probably 80 people on set every day, and there's probably at least 200, 250 people that work on that movie or television series at a time. So you're really going to work with 250 teammates every day, which I really like. And I really like being on the set as, if I'm an actor producer, setting the tone for that creation, you know, setting a tone which is free but respectful, and creative but not totally undisciplined. So all that stuff I really enjoy as well. I think I was most happiest as an actor when I wrote and directed one movie so far, and that was in like 2006 or something. And I was really happy doing that. It's called House of D, and I really enjoyed shooting something that I'd written, and I loved the actors that came to make my stuff so much better than it was on the page. And that's the thing about being either a writer or director, is when you get these wonderful actors who come and do things that you never thought of and make your words better than you ever thought they could be. That really teaches you about generosity and gratitude when that happens. And it really makes you respect actors, because sometimes I lose my respect for actors, you know, and then they surprise me.
Thank you so much. Our next question comes from Tracy, who you already know. You met her in the green room. And Tracy has another question about your acting career.
Yeah. Hello again.
Hi,
Yeah, I had a question about your role in Beethoven. It's kind of a follow-up question that you already answered in the green room.
Yeah.
So my question was what was it like to work with an animal on set, and what did you learn from that experience? And if you could share the gorilla story again.
Yes, I'd be happy to. Well, on Beethoven, I learned that I don't want a Saint Bernard because they drool too much. And the story that you're talking about, I worked on a movie called Return to Me, which was shot in Chicago. And I played a guy whose wife who had worked at the Chicago Zoo, and she had died in the movie. And I was kind of sleepwalking, mourning her loss. And I would go around to the animals that she had worked with and check in with them. And there was a gorilla at the Chicago Zoo. There's a number of gorillas. And I had a scene with the gorilla where I talked to the gorilla about my dearly departed wife. And I tell the gorilla, you know, that I miss her, and, you know, what am I going to do? And I'm just talking to the gorilla. I'm just kind of complaining or checking in with the gorilla. And of course, the gorilla doesn't say anything, but, you know, he's like a shrink in the movie. And huge, beautiful, huge animal, just about 3 feet from me, but he's behind bars. And I'm kind of sitting, I guess it's at the back of the cage, you know, not at the front where paying customers might be, but like the back where they feed them and, you know, they give them medical attention, whatever they need. And in the scene, I'm eating French fries because it's my lunch break, and I'm sharing the fries with the gorilla. But gorillas can't eat fried food; that'll screw up their tummies. So they were little cut julienne strips of zucchini, of raw zucchini. They looked enough like fries on screen. So I'm talking, and I'm giving a fry to the gorilla, and the gorilla's putting his hand out through the bar, this huge, beautiful hand that I would drop this fry into. And I realized that at any moment he could just grab my hand, and he could have just pulled me and ragdolled me, but so gentle. I'll never forget just the size of that hand. And so we did like 3 or 4 takes, and the gorilla's great. He's just sitting there the way they sit, and he's just looking at me. And he puts his hand out sometimes, and I give him the fry, and he eats it. And then around the 5th take or so, I get to that point where I offer him the fry, and the gorilla goes, "No more." He's like, I'm done. I'm good. I'm good.
That's such a great story. Thank you so much for sharing it. All right, our next question comes from Sophia.
Hi,
Hi,
Sophia.
good morning.
Good morning.
In the show Twin Peaks, you played the role of Denise, a trans woman. What was your process in preparing for that role, and did you face any challenges?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I guess he, I don't know the pronoun to call that person anymore. I mean, I forget, we called Denise was the name of my character, so we called her a she, but she was a transvestite. I think that was my understanding of it. And the challenge, there were lots of challenges. Like, I had really not done a lot of work at that point. So I was so happy to have a job, first of all. That's my main memory. And the show was, as you said, it was Twin Peaks. And at that point, like, this is before any of you were born, way before. It was a huge show for about a year. And I was auditioning in the second year, but it was huge. It was like Game of Thrones kind of big. And then it just tanked. Like, the second year it's probably because I was on it, but it went down. So I came in around the middle of the second year. And God, I don't, this is how I approached it, honestly. Like, I didn't ask any of these questions about what it means to be trans or what it means to be transvestite or anything like that. I just thought, well, I want, again, working from the outside in a little bit, I was like, well, what is the difference, like, cliched or stereotypically, between the way men and women talk to one another? And I decided that men historically or stereotypically are kind of, they hang back a little bit. And that women are much more kind of right here and smiling and receptive. And that's the social, I'm not saying that's the truth. Those are like the social visual cues that I was thinking of. So I thought, I'm going to play this person who likes dressing in women's clothes as completely open, more open than I've ever been in conversation, eyes a little wider, not kind of sleepy-eyed and not receptive, but receptive, and very, very pleasant and polite. So this is the way I went at it. And then when I put on the wig and I shaved my legs, the rest just kind of fell into place.
Thank you so much. We'll go to Geraldine next, who is zooming in from home. She is a musician and she has questions for you about you.
Hi, Geraldine.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
As a music lover myself, I enjoy sharing music with others. So my question for you is, how do you share your love for music with others?
What do you play an instrument, or do you sing, or what do you do?
I'm learning how to play the guitar and I sing.
Oh, great. How's your guitar going?
I'm just learning the basics so far.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. It's great that you learn at your age, at a young age, because instruments are they're hard to learn, but they're a lot easier to learn when you're your age. I took up guitar when I was 50, and I play like it. Yeah, I play. You just can't get there. You've got a great advantage because you started when you started. You'll be great in no time. So for me, I guess I had never thought about sharing music. I've always loved music, but I've never thought about making it or sharing it. I don't have a great voice. I've worked at it hard. I mean, I sing every day, but I don't have a great pitch. So I had to learn it. It's almost muscular, but you can learn it if you stay on it. So I've done that, or I do that. And for me, it was, I've always loved music. So when I started to make music, it was really like, almost like recreating the sounds that I loved, mostly from my childhood, mostly from music that I loved when I was a kid. And that's, I think we all fall in love with music when we're kids, and that becomes kind of the music that we deal with our whole life. I mean, some people like get into jazz when they're older or rediscover classical music and stuff like that. But emotionally, you know, the songs, when songs mean so much to you, that's when you're little, when you're young. So in a way, it was like trying to share my love for that music that I grew up with, was because it was so invested in my own attempts at making music. It was kind of like, that was my way of sharing the love I had for that music. I remember Ivan singing a song, and Ivan, what did you used to walk around singing all the time?
I don't know. I'm not, and if I did, I wouldn't admit it. I really.
Yes, you know what it was? Was it Hugh Masekela?
I don't.
All right.
I don't recall. Geraldine's laughing because Geraldine can actually sing. So.
All right. Anyway, so I hope I answered your question in some way, Geraldine. But you know, keep at it and get to the bar chords. That's the key. When you get to the bar chords.
Thank you so much for that. We have another question actually about music and songwriting coming from Alexa.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I read that in 2017, you put your acting career on hold to focus more on singing and songwriting. As a songwriter, when do you find inspiration for new lyrics?
Inspiration for what?
Oh, lyrics.
Oh, lyrics.
Sorry.
I don't know. You know, I've always written poetry. I never wrote lyrics until I started to write songs. And poetry is not like lyrics. Lyrics are a different kind of a weird beast. And I think that I keep a notebook and I'll write down phrases or ideas that I think are songs. Just like I have a notebook that are ideas for books or movies or whatever. And just as the ideas come, I make sure I write them down, because it's not true that you'll remember them all. You will forget them. So I'm a proponent of writing things down, writing ideas down. So I'm sure, like, just to go back to that song that I was asked about earlier, Stranger in the Sacred Heart, I think that title just came to me when I went to the Sacred Heart. And the idea that stranger functioned both ways in that title, in that song, as being a strange place to be in your own sacred heart, but also being a stranger to your own heart in a way. So I liked that kind of lack of definite meaning, which I like very much in songs, which is, I think, you know, why songs can mean a lot to you, all of us, is because they leave enough in the dark for us to project our own stuff onto. They leave enough vague, they leave enough mysterious so that we can make it our own. We can fill in the blanks. So I'm always kind of on the lookout for phrases like that will, that I think can engender a song or an idea. And then I've also got lots of like chord progressions that I like over the years that I'll go back to, and then I'll try to fit those words, and I'll try to hear a melody, or I will hear a melody for a certain phrase, and then it'll all just come from that. But in terms of writing a song, I won't write a song unless I tell myself really to sit down and write a song. You know, that's the weird thing. So much of creativity, so much of making your life as a creative person is discipline. It's kind of counterintuitive. You think, you're going to be an actor, you're going to play all the time, you're going to be a writer, you're just going to play all the time. Musician, you're going to play all the time. But in fact, none of the creative stuff happens unless you sit your ass down in a seat. So there's a lot of discipline involved in that playfulness. So I won't write a song unless I tell myself I'm going to write a song today. Now that doesn't mean it's going to be a good song, but at least I'll sit down and try to write a song.
Thank you so much. We have another question from Sochiket Salit, who is zooming in from school.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
As a novelist yourself, what are some of your favorite novels? What novels would you recommend for us?
Oh, wow. There's so many, it's a hard question to talk about my favorite novels. One novel that I always talk about as one of my favorites, because it's more or less contemporary, is called American Pastoral by Philip Roth. He's a writer that I think is one of the best of the last 100 years in America in English. I just think it's a novel that really kind of spans American history from the 50s to I guess the 90s in it, or the 80s at least, in a way that's profound and really sad and true. But here's what I feel about, I've read tons of novels, right? Because I was in school to do that. And what's amazing to me about novels, and it's the same with songs, maybe movies, maybe television, I don't know, but really with novels and songs, is that they mean different things when I'm in a different space. I can read Great Expectations by Dickens now, and it'll be the first time I've read it, even though I've read it before, because I'm a different person reading it. And from when I was 19 or 15 or whenever they made me read it at collegiate, so, or songs, all of a sudden I'll hear a song that I knew a long time ago and I'll hear it for the first time, but it's not the first time I've heard it. I've heard it 100 times, but I'm hearing it for the first time in this way because I'm new. So that's not answering your question. I can't give you a list. I could if you gave me more time, but I don't want to just toss names out. But that's my experience of reading that I find magical and alive.
Thank you so much. We want to be mindful of your time this morning, David. Do you have time for 2 more questions?
Yeah, I'm just here. I got nothing.
Wonderful.
I could lie and say I gotta go, but I don't.
Well, our next question comes from Andre, who is zooming in from school.
Hi, I am a
Good
fan
morning.
of the show X-Files and your character, FBI Special Agent Fox Mulder. So my question for you is, do you have any new upcoming acting projects we should keep an eye out for?
I just had a movie out, called The Craft, which was a remake of this witchy movie from the 90s. So that just came out, I think on Halloween. But the next project that I'm looking forward to is I'm trying to make a television series out of a novel that's coming out in February that I wrote, and that's called Truly Like Lightning. And I think it'd be a great television series, and I'm really kind of focusing on working with some collaborators on that. I don't know if you guys saw this movie, The Peanut Butter Falcon, last year, but it was really sweet, really nice movie. And those are the guys that I'm working with to try and turn my novel into a series. And there's a couple of other series ideas that I'm working on. One with another collegiate alum, Jeff Orange, who had the germ of an idea that was actually decent, and we've actually kind of turned it into something really interesting. But it centers on HBCUs, which is not something I knew a lot about before investigating this idea. So there's a couple of things that I'm developing, but there's nothing in the can, nothing that I shot last year. There hasn't been a lot of work to do, at least for me, in this COVID depleted world. But you know, we'll come back and there's more work to be done, but nothing that I can send you out to right now.
All right. Well, our last question comes from Jeremiah, who is zooming in from home. And Jeremiah has a final question about your work as a musician.
Okay. Hey, Jeremiah.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for being an old school time speaker.
My pleasure.
I'm starting to write songs, and my question for you is, you have so much experience in the music industry. So my question for you is, what advice would you give those of us who want to become songwriters, and what challenges might we face?
I think, you know, the first impulse that you have is to write songs, and that's what you want to hold on to right now. I'm assuming you're pretty young, so you know, I would say just write songs. You know, keep writing songs, whatever instrument you play or however you put songs together. Just keep on doing it. Teach yourself who you are as a songwriter and as a musician, and then you know, in terms of the business is funny right now because, you know, when I grew up and when Ivan and Dan grew up, you know, you bought albums and that's how musicians made their living. And now it's a little different. Those physical purchases don't exist anymore. So the business, whatever the business model is changing and continues to change with Spotify and streaming services, just like movies and TV have had to change recently too. So I don't have really great advice about the business because I don't know. And I don't know what it's going to be like in 5 years. I never would have predicted the iPod, you know. I never would have predicted that you'd have all the songs you ever wanted on your phone. I didn't see that coming. So I'm not seeing what's coming 5 years from now, but it's coming. So the only way to be prepared for what's coming is for you to write your songs, you know, for you to just keep writing your songs.
Thank you so much. We'll be coming back to Tracy for a moment of silence to take in everything that you've shared with us this morning. Thank you so much for sharing all that you have. And Ivan will follow up with that with a few remarks.
Thank you.
1, 2, 3. One, two, three.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Wow, David, what a joy to see you. And, you know, I did a crash course on David Duchovny over the last week or so. And it's just, like I said in the beginning, just as a human being, it's wonderful to see somebody who, as you said, has the beginner's mind and somebody who's curious and open and a seeker. That when I was listening to you and knowing just, you know, what heights you've reached in terms of the public eye, which in some ways I imagine must be the depths too. But and we didn't talk about that, but it'd be fascinating to hear your take on that on another day. But yeah, Rudyard Kipling. At one point, no, there's this one line about, you know, that somebody who can walk with kings and queens and keep the calm in touch, and you've been able to pull that off quite spectacularly here. So, not only was it wonderful for me and for Dan and for my students and colleagues to hear what you said, but also just how you said it. And, I was taken by that too, just in my research of you, not even just how you said, but, how carefully you listened to our team. And I think that's behind your ability to glide effortlessly through the arts and explore the world and share it very profoundly. In our mission, there's a statement like that. The core of the mission, I think, is we want to teach people to adapt to change. And not only have you adapted to change, you've sought change out so beautifully, again, with that shoshin, that beginner's mind. But it's to adapt to change and to create and share a life of deep meaning, dynamic virtue, and transcendent joy. And you're pursuing these things and sharing these things, and you're creating and sharing across a spectrum of the arts that is, as far as I see, not too often matched. But what a beautiful life you're creating, and it's beautiful that you're sharing things. And I loved your lyrics about our soon-to-be former president. And I'm grateful you got your mom out to vote. And what a beautiful teacher you are as well. And maybe that's the highest compliment I can. Sometime you got to come back. And you intimated that you might, but it would be wonderful if you could do, kind of a high level one-off drama course just to talk about your method. But thank you, Dan, for bringing David back in our orbit. And what a wonderful life you're shaping, and you're doing it in the eyes of the world. And you have so many people who admire and watch you. So it's not I imagine quite a burden, but you wear it so lightly and generously. And thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Ivan. That's very moving to me. I appreciate it. And thank you for doing what you do. And I've been aware of it for years as well. And I'm sorry that I haven't been in touch more, but I hope to be now.
We are now. Yeah. Thank you. Well, be well. I'm glad you got over the COVID, and
thank you.
And we'll be talking about you over the next few weeks, and some of the students are going to write letters on their reflections. But what a joy, David Duchovny.
Can I just say that?
Please.
I really appreciate the way the students spoke to me. I appreciated their courtesy. I appreciated the care with which they framed their answers. And I find it very moving. You kids were very moving to me in your curiosity and in your respectful address. And by that, I don't mean calling me sir, because I don't think any of you did. But it's just in your attitude of respect. And I have to believe that that's something that Ivan has had something to do with. And I appreciate that. I thank you for that, Ivan. I thank you, the kids, for you. And, I wish you all the luck in the world and all the courage and everything you're going to need. So I think you've got a great start, and you seem like beautiful kids to me. So thank you.
Have a beautiful day, David, and we hope to see you when all this lives. Thank you so much, David Duchovny.
Thank you. Thank you.